My name is Michelle Lisey. I'm the coordinator of Live Healthy Red Wing and the facilitator of the Mayor's Task Force on Streets and Sidewalks. The task force, as you know, is made up of city staff, elected officials, community leaders, and residents. As you also know, the task force has been working for the last 2 years on a number of different sidewalk issues and policies and procedures. And we will be coming to this council again on June 27th to present our final pedestrian plan, which will summarize all the recommendations that we've been working on. We just wanted to come to you tonight, like we have a couple times in the past, to update you on a variety of subjects. And tonight we wanted to talk a little bit about the inspecting and maintaining of our current sidewalks. Early in the process, the task force was clear that inspecting and maintaining what we currently have should be seen as a top priority. The task force also tonight wanted to publicly thank the entire Public Works Department for the work that they do, and we didn't even know it was a special Public Works night, but we wanted to thank Lynn Nardinger and, of course, Rick Moskwa and the whole entire staff, because taking care of our sidewalks is a huge, huge job. They do a very good job of it, and all of us as citizens should be very appreciative of the work that they do, so thank you. We'll go through here. I know we need to be brief, but we wanted to sort of update the group on the issues that arose. These came up from both staff and the task force. Staff is a part of our task force. So we wanted to make sure that everybody knows that those folks are a part of this whole process. Together we worked on some issues that came up. Right now, sidewalks are inspected 1/3 throughout the city every single summer. And we are very lucky about that. Some cities do not inspect their sidewalk, and it is primarily on a complaint basis, but our city does inspect 1/3 every year and marks that area with paint, which is fantastic. But there are some things that came up. The inspection process is a little bit limited and needed some updating. There was not a real detailed description of what was wrong with each sidewalk. The sidewalk at that time was done on paper and not electronically, and sometimes, you know, it took a little longer than what staff even wanted to be able to fix those problems. We also, as a group, wanted to get a grasp of the whole scope of what the issue was. So citywide, what are we really looking at, and what does the data tell us? So what we first decided to do as a group was to do a full citywide inspection of every single sidewalk in town and get a baseline of every sidewalk's condition. And thankfully, the city had recently purchased Cartograph, which is a new electronic mapping system, so that helped tremendously. We would have been asking for that, and we had just purchased it, so it was fantastic. We worked with staff to create categories that weren't there, or they weren't as specific before. Cracking and spalling, which I learned is sort of like gravel. It kind of looks like gravel. It's cracked enough so that it's kind of sitting on top and can create some slipping. And then vertical misalignment, which again I learned is pretty much, it causes the tripping hazard. And so that was seen as a major issue. So these were the issues. What we did learn was that even through the sidewalk process, one thing that we did not measure that we would like to recommend being done in the future is this, the cross slope. And so when you're walking along a sidewalk, the cross slope based on state mandate should not be more than 2% going forward. Obviously, it's not the case now, but going forward as we fix things, that would be what we do. The ramps that we have were also inspected, but we learned that we needed a much more detailed inspection. Last summer we did the ramp condition and the condition of those truncated domes. That's the round, bumpy. Bumpy. And that's basically for the visually impaired to realize that they're going to cross. And what we are recommending, and you'll see later in our presentation, that we're recommending a more thorough inspection of ramps throughout the city this summer, and Lynn, that was done again with staff. So we would be looking at all these other things so that we really know what we're looking at in terms of ADA accessibility, Americans with Disabilities Act. So by the end of this summer, we would have a true look at both ramps and sidewalks. Just looking by the numbers, we have 3,606 sidewalk segments in Red Wing. You, as an individual property owner, each own one segment. So a segment is made up of lots of different panels, depending on the size, but one segment is yours and yours. And based on this 0 to 5 star rating, and each star is given a very specific measurement so that whoever goes out and inspects, it'll be a consistent rating. About 30% of those had just one or more panels, so it actually looks, it really might look worse up there, but some of those panels are just one panel that rated either poor, very poor, or failing in at least one category. 21 of those are from boulevard trees, and so those are the city fixes those without any help from residents. So those 21 are being fixed this summer. The numbers here: spalling 5 segments, cracking 26, and vertical misalignment 108 segments. There really are 59 that are 0 and 1 star, and another 59 that are 2. But in talking with our engineering department and Public Works, it was decided that this was such a kind of a tripping hazard that 0, 1, or 2 should really be looked at as kind of in those that we should really get fixed soonest.
Michelle, can you mention what 0 is good?
Yeah, I'm sorry. So 0 is failing. There really aren't that many that are failing, but that is the absolute worst. 1 is a very poor. 3 gets up to your fair. 4 stars is good, and 5 is excellent. So 1,084 sidewalks, again, had at least one category, but again, these are not the whole sidewalk. It's usually one small section. But that just kind of shows you the blue are things that could be repaired. The red lines are the worst ones that that are failing in at least 3. Again, here's the 118 that could use some help. And that's hard to see, I'm sorry, but the blue is marked as 31 with spalling and cracking. These are just some examples. Again, these are the worst of the worst, but we just wanted you to know kind of what they look like in terms of things that would be fixed. Some of them, like the one on the right with Briarwood, that's fairly new, but for different reasons it's cracked pretty deeply. Other ones like Green Street, some of them are just very old. So what we did was work together, everybody, to come up with a new procedure that would help everybody. It would help staff have time to really get good projects together. It would help residents have more time to know that they had to kind of fund some of these. And we had real conversations about being fair to residents who may have not been contacted about their sidewalk for a very long time. And now this kind of sidewalk repair project is coming up, and so to give people time to plan for that. I won't go through everything here, but just suffice to say that April and May is what we're recommending, really, that the inspections happen, so that by June, our infrastructure asset specialist, Alex, out at Public Works, he can really compile a list of the worst sidewalks and then report to staff about what the big picture is, that year, using the very latest data. The other thing that we're recommending, both for this issue and for others, staff came forward and said that they would be willing to have a 3-department sidewalk committee that meets at least quarterly, made up of planning, engineering, and public works, because we know that sidewalk committees do come and go, and they might come again, maybe, but to have staff really invested in it, and these 3 departments do a really good job, and they work really well together, and so that was a great recommendation from staff. And that also this committee would also listen to community members, or have a couple community members come and sit on that committee at least twice a year. That was kind of a strong thing we heard from the task force, was we'd still like to have some community involvement and bring issues forward, so that would happen at least twice a year. Letters would go out to residents in July, and we've included in your packet an updated letter that just kind of lays things out, what we hope is in a very concise but clear way for people. They then get 3.5 months to decide, do I want to be part of a city project that Lynn will put together, or do I want to really contract and have my own contractor? And so by November, they should contact Public Works to let them know. That lets the staff work from January on to put a really good project together, often with a contractor, especially in the next 3 to 4 years. There will be a lot of sidewalks that need fixing, and so having a contractor work on this is the best way forward. And then when that letter goes out, people understand that they do not have to pay for that sidewalk to be fixed until it's actually fixed, and that would come in the next May or June or July. So people do have almost a year to plan, and so we hope that that is letting people have enough time. The one thing to note is that engineering does need to meet with property owners. If you're someone out there who does want to use your own contractor, you do need to meet with engineering. They can make sure that your material is correct and the way they're pouring it is correct. And that's just simply so that we don't have another broken sidewalk in a year or two. And then starting in late summer, August through October, Public Works will have a list that they will go out and re-inspect the sidewalks where people said, hey, I'm going to have my own contractor. We just want to make sure, they want to make sure that it's done and done well. And then the cycle continues. So this, we hope, is a process that can continue to be more of a systematic procedure. I can take, let's see, I'm almost done here. This is just basically the letter that was in your packet that details things a little more. I think most of the large recommendations are that we recommend that the city continue to inspect 1/3 every year, and we feel good now that everything has a baseline. So now that the 1/3 inspection with the new, more in-depth categories will help us really get a better idea of what sidewalks look like. The city will inspect all ramps for ADA accessibility in more detail this summer. And really, when the sidewalk projects are put together, staff and the group work together and said, hey, it's probably better both cost-wise and for another reason to do it geographically. So if we see that there are a lot of sidewalks in this one area that need to be fixed, let's do this one section, both because it's cheaper to do that, and also if someone is paying for their own residents to be fixed, it's nice that they can enjoy the whole neighborhood together. That's a recommendation. We could do it all over the city, but that sometimes takes a lot of time and money to do. We're recommending people use the new inspection and maintenance procedure and use the timeline, and that the sidewalk committee meets quarterly. So we kind of went through that. But if you have any questions or anything that anybody wanted to ask about, the letters would actually go out this summer for next year.
Well, first, thank you for keeping going with this. I mean, we're happy that you're coming back with more. My question is about the cost to individuals who are going to get these letters in the mail. How much? I mean, I just have no idea. Like, what is that? If we have one panel that you have to repair and you suddenly get this thing in the mail, what would that cost?
Mm-hmm. Rick, do you want to make sure that I don't misspeak?
Jay.
Otherwise, Jay's right behind it, too.
Oh, Jay, yeah, either one. Okay.
I think right now, Public Works fee for that is $8 a square foot. So if you got a panel, you've got a 5 by 4 panel, it would be 20 square feet. I think 6-inch, if it's 6-inch walk, it's $8.50 a square foot right now.
I could tell you what a 100-foot lot is. About $5,000 to do the whole thing if you hired a contractor. That would be the whole length of a lot.
And so most of these you're seeing are like a couple of panels or?
A few $100s, yeah, for getting, when she was talking about those small patches that need to be done like that. Now, some of them are larger. You saw some stretches, she showed some bad stretches. That's getting up there where that's a whole lot replacement,
You'll have removal though as well, so you have some disposal and removal and have to fix it back up because you just, you leave a mess when you go on the boulevard. So
that $5,000 is just the sidewalk. It does not include removal or re-turfing that area.
Now, Public Works prices it at that $8 and $8.50 to include that. So when I say that, you might be able to, we see bids coming in from our contractors, Ron, would we get $4.50, $5 a square foot right now with our most recent bids, which are good sidewalk bids. But
That was
Public
a-
Works puts all that cost into that $8. So that includes Public Works going out there, hammering it out, and then disposing of it, repouring the new walk, and then reestablishing the black dirt and seeding the yard that's disturbed. So it's kind of catches all under that one price.
You know, one thing that Michelle brought up before about geographically, that's one of the reasons why if you can get a project together and you get a contractor that's going to do a number of them, once again, he's mobilized, he's in that area, it does reduce that cost to try to get that done.
I just had two thoughts. One is that in that letter, I think, I mean, I even know this, but I was sort of looking back in the letter, a line up at the very top that says something, some citation or something about why the homeowner is responsible for that. Because I don't know that everybody always remembers that, oh, it's a sidewalk, you're responsible for it.
Yeah,
You know,
something, statement out of the ordinance or something
yeah,
like that.
exactly. Just
shows.
because I kept looking through, saying, wait a minute, what? Okay, right. It's the homeowner's responsibility.
Yeah.
And then the other one is, I don't know really how to address this, but for some people, this is going to be a big
Right.
problem and you know, a big cost. So I don't know if we extend the payback time or what, but.
Yeah, we do say in the, trying to look here, in the letter, that you can have it assessed to your property and pay it over a period of 10 years with interest. So I guess that's one option. We did talk as a task force about what are some other options. Do we need to have residents be responsible? That was a long discussion over multiple meetings. We looked at other communities who do things like fees, sidewalk, I guess fees is what they talked about, not necessarily taxes, but there were other ways to pay for it. After numerous discussions, we felt like right now, we just didn't feel there was the political will to pass something like that right now. Other residents have had to pay for their sidewalks. It is something that we could look at in the future. How does Red Wing pay for its sidewalks? How do we pay to keep them updated?
Yeah, that came up, and I think Ralph even, it's called a sidewalk utility, where you spread the cost of some of this replacement across the community. So everyone pays into this, a certain amount into a sidewalk fund that goes out and replaces sidewalk, and you don't bill the homeowner directly. But, you know, we haven't done it that way. We've, you know, Public Works has been doing it, you know, where they're sending these letters out. This isn't something new to this task force. What's probably new now is we got a better base of where we're at with things. We've been kind of doing this for quite some time. Now we have a base to know, yeah, there is a fair amount of sidewalk that needs to be addressed, and maybe try to ramp up our program a little bit as far as the replacements. But there are different ways to fund it, and that was something that the task force, we talked extensively about those other options. And I think, Ralph, you chimed in that there just might not be that political will to put another fee on the water bill per se, or something like that. So.
Any other questions?
Jay, can you talk a little bit about reconstruction as well and how that plays into sidewalk replacements?
Yeah, with a road reconstruct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so when we, during a reconstruction project, we go out and we assess the sidewalk, just like Public Works is doing around town a third of, you know, every year. So when we have a reconstruct, there's going to be extra sidewalk replaced that the homeowner's responsible for during the reconstruct. There's also going to be sidewalk that gets replaced because we have to put in a sewer or water service, or there's a boulevard tree that's causing an issue. So we divide out what sidewalk we're charging, you know, the homeowner for, and then we also throw it out there that while we're doing this, you know, we got about 60% of your sidewalk is getting taken out. Now's the time. We've got a price of $4.50 or $5 a square foot from a contractor. And we'll talk to homeowners that say, you know, I just as soon have all mine done right now, you know, and you know, there is a few cracks. They're not so bad that they're vertical misalignment, but we do try to, you know, work with the homeowners, and we do have them, they decide to do their whole walk at this time. So, and then, and that's with the reconstructs and the Public Works projects as well. We try to work with the homeowners and get them the best price possible. That's another thing about the reconstruct. I should mention, the price that they get is the better of the two. I think we started that last year, Ron, the better of either the contractor's bid or what our base price is in the fee ordinance.
Yeah, I think it might have been 1 or 2 years ago, but what we do is we add up the removal cost, because the contractor bids it all out, each part of it. So we got the removal cost plus the replacement cost, plus the topsoil and seed, and then we added some administration on it. And if that's lower than what we've got in the fee ordinance, then we use that amount. And it says right in the fee ordinance, it's one or the other, whichever's lower on a bid project. And usually the contract will be cheaper, just because, like Jay said, or I think Rick might have said it, they're moving in to work in one area, so they give you a better price because they're there doing all kinds of other work as well. So it's economies of scale. They've got their road project going, so it's cheaper to pour walk while you're there.
And we try to work on that 5-year plan with our reconstructs to know that there may be some marginal sidewalk that we can wait because we're reconstructing that road next year. You know, if it's not a dire need to be in there fixing that. So we kind of got to look at that at the same time we're inspecting existing walks. You know, what are we planning to build? What are we planning to build this fall? And work with Public Works on that.
Just a couple of comments. You know, the committee's been going on for almost a year and a half, 2 years almost now. And they started looking at new areas. You know, there's some challenging areas like the North Service Drive and those things. But a lot of the comments that came out from the residents on these committees says, you know, you really should take care of the sidewalks you've got, you know, before you start planning new sidewalks. There's a lot of sidewalks within the community not being taken care of, not up to standards. You saw the pictures. So they really encouraged us, and Michelle, you know, kind of led us through a lot of these things. Just, you know, a plan, a process to keep these things up to date, and so we don't have these huge problems down the road. But really focus on keeping them what you have, fixing them up before you start looking at new areas.
Any other comments?
Just want to clarify, so that letter, that's already been going out. I mean, this is the same.
Well, there was a letter going out, but it would say you've got 90 days to do this, and it was a letter that did go out. What we tried to do is say, kind of what you're saying is, people need more time to plan. So that was part of that process, was looking at what do we do, but how do we do it even better. And part of it was to communicate more with residents and also give them more time to plan. And by doing that, it also helps Public Works plan with engineering a really good project for the next year with a contractor, instead of every year wondering, can we do this in-house or can we do it with a contractor? It just bumps everything up. So none of those sidewalks that you saw there will be fixed this summer. That was another conversation. Everybody wants to get them fixed, but the reality is somebody has to pay for it. And if we're going to stick right now with the resident responsibility, then it's only fair to wait one more year and try to get a system up and running for the future. So yeah, like Ralph said, this is about a process, if we can get a process and system in place.
Mayor, did you have something?
I just wanted to say that this task force has spent a lot of time on this and have been real thoughtful about trying to make sure that we're communicating. But that wouldn't happen, you know, you heard what she said. We used to send a letter out and said 90 days. They've gone through the process and said, let's involve our residents so they know early enough that they can work on this. And when we sat down and looked at this, it became pretty apparent to all of us that let's go with this process. And I think it's a process that they've spent a lot of time on, and the mayor and his group of folks, to get to this stage. And it's a beginning, and there's a lot of sidewalks that need work. So we think this is the best way to accomplish it. It's not going to, people aren't going to be happy, but it's a process.
I just wanted to say, and I've said this before, this is the third sidewalk committee that I've worked with, and I'm telling you, you guys are really doing a great job. You're in depth. You're concerned about. You're looking at the big picture. Everybody understands that we need sidewalks, but you're digging into even some of the basic questions. Okay, how do we pay for them? And how do we keep them up? And I tell you, I really appreciate that. So I just wanted to say, I think you do, and the whole sidewalk committee That includes you, Ralph. But I think you guys are all doing a really good job. That we've never had a sidewalk committee work this in-depth before and come back with real solutions to real problems. And I appreciate that. And that's why I said I was going to support this. Because at one time I said I'd never vote for another sidewalk ever, the entire time I'm on the council. But you guys have came back with real solutions for real problems, and that's really appreciated. It helps me do my job, too.
We do think that what you just said, that this committee's done such good work. That last bullet there, to just have that work end, we thought we need a champion, we need to keep this going, and having some staff that are invested in seeing this plan and taking pieces of the plan and implementing it, I think is really key to continuing it. There'll still be sidewalk issues, you know there will be, and we'll have our meetings and our public hearings, and those will come up. But to have a committee in place to kind of move this forward into the future, I think is key to this plan.
And before I go, I do just want to say that a lot of staff, council, residents, there have been a lot of people, many people sitting here, even Chief Pullman from our police department, planning, engineering, the mayor, council members. So I just want to say thank you that it's been a very big group of people working, so we'll be back.
Thank you.
Thank you.